Stop it with the L's, Mark. Guillotine.
Guillotine.
Hey, Maniacs.
Hey, Maniacs.
It's Mystery Maniacs.
Mystery Maniacs is a comedy recap podcast dedicated to British mystery TV. Each week we dig into an episode of the show, including the murders, the mayhem, the loonies, and everything else we love. This week we're covering Old Father Brown.
Yes.
From 1974.
Talk about loony.
Oh, there's Looney.
We chose the two looniest of the whole lunatic asylum that is 1970s Father Brown.
I had forgotten there were multiple decapitations in my episode.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. But before we dive into all that, new merch is up on Spreadshirt.
Yes.
Mugs, tote bags, t-shirts, all that good stuff. If you buy something, all of the proceeds will go to Heart International.
Yes.
Helping people in Puerto Rico who are suffering right now due to big storms.
We have had fans in Florida, South Carolina, and the Maritimes reach out to us. Thank you. I hope you're safe. I'm glad you're safe. Continue to be safe.
Yes, absolutely.
We're thinking about you.
Wow, Florida looks just
Yeah.
so... Whew. South Carolina, brace for it. Be safe.
Millions of people without power. Oof,
Yeah.
Not good.
Thinking about you.
Not good.
Spooky-tober is coming.
Yes, Spooktober is coming.
We're doing 2 creepy Agatha Christie episodes,
Yes.
but then the 3rd episode of the month is Listener's Choice.
Yes.
So you'll see a survey if you subscribe to the newsletter, which you should. You'll see a survey there that'll come out the 5th of October. Is that right?
Yes.
The survey will be there. And if you don't, okay, fine, you don't, whatever. You'll see the survey in all of our socials a couple of days later.
Yep.
So vote for which Halloween episode of a British murder mystery you think we should cover, or you can add in your own there's a write-in option.
Yes.
Sound good?
Yes.
Yes.
Also in the newsletter will be pictures of the beginnings of this year's Halloween display at our house. So if you don't know, if you're a new listener, we do quite a large, handmade, customized Halloween display on a theme each year.
In our yard.
Now, Sarah does almost all of the building, and I do all of the talking and running the electricity.
You do the social part.
I do
and
the social
maintenance part.
Yep.
Which
Taking pictures.
I can't do. Okay, so that's my announcements. The next 2 are all you.
Yes. The first one is Kay Woodman Maynard is one of our listeners. Now, she followed us, and I follow everybody back on Instagram who follows us, and I looked at her pictures, and she had this incredible art, and I figured out that she had done a graphic novel adaptation of The Great Gatsby.
That's beautiful.
It's just insanely gorgeous. So then I heard that she was going to be at SBX, which is a big comic book convention in Bethesda, Maryland. Which I would love to go to, but it's at the wrong time of the year.
Yeah.
But I had a friend in town who I do some comic book stuff with who was going to this. So I made a package up of my comic book stuff for Kay Woodman Maynard and sent it off.
So your friend took your package
Yes.
to SBX to give to Kay.
Yes. And then Kay returned the package, which was so incredibly nice.
Including a watercolor of our new logo.
Yes, which is just gorgeous that we're going to frame and put up in the house.
We'll take a picture of it.
Thank you so much, Kay.
Yes.
Well, by the time this episode comes out, look in my feed on the Instagram feeds for the show, because I will have done a reel that shows some of the artwork and talks about it.
Yeah, it's really great. Thank you, Kay, so much.
Thank you so much, Kay.
And last but not least.
This
is my favorite announcement of the week before we dive in. I'm not gloating.
An end.
Except a lot.
To the Sister Boniface Conspiracy.
The train station Sister Boniface Conspiracy.
So just to reiterate, I noticed in episode 1 of the new Father Browns that in the background of the scene in the train station, there was a woman who looked quite a bit like Sister
There
Boniface.
are two nuns sitting there, one wearing glasses, and you said, I think that's Lorna Watson. I think that's Sister Boniface in the background.
Yes. This divided the internet.
I disagreed vehemently.
Some were in Camp Sarah that said no. There was one person on Facebook that just said, because I posted it as a question, and they said no. That was their entire comment.
You don't need to argue it. It's obvious.
But there were others who sent me pictures of the two of them together, which I was like, yes, absolutely. And said, sorry, Sarah, this is true.
And I was like, nuns and glasses are not all identical.
We argued about this on an episode, and we now have definitive...
You mean two episodes we've been debating this, but now we have a definitive answer.
We have a definitive answer.
Because you sent messages to everyone you could related to that episode and asked them.
We reached out to a couple of people we know in England and see if we could get in touch with people.
You even looked at Lorna Watson's filmography to see if she was filming something else when that one was filmed.
I did indeed do that. And
you had a corkboard with red string on it practically.
Yes. And 2 days ago, from when we're recording this, we got an email from one Jude Tyndall. Mm-hmm. Who is Jude Tyndall? The name may be familiar because she basically wrote every Father Brown that we covered. Mm-hmm. She wrote Christmas episodes, and I think she wrote the Halloween episode. She wrote a whole bunch of them. She's also co-creator of Sister Boniface and Shakespeare and Hathaway. Mm-hmm.
AKA somebody who will definitely know.
So she says the following. I was sent your podcast on the Bride of Christ. I really enjoyed your forensic critique.
That's a nice way of putting it.
That's a very nice. Fabulous stuff. And I hope I can answer one question as I wrote the episode. And then she goes on to answer the question, and she's a very nice lady.
Read it. Read it.
She says, and hope I can answer a question as I wrote the episode. It wasn't Lorna in the background of the other episode. You are quite right. They're transmitted out of order. And in fact, episode 6 was the last one written, in which time the one with the bespectacled supporting artist had already been shot. Mm-hmm. So
go on. What does it say?
SRB's blog for the episode said, earnest eyes behind owl glasses because she's a boffin.
Yes.
So what does that translate that for our American viewers?
The description of the character is that she should wear glasses.
Yeah.
Because she's a sciencey person.
Yes.
But the nun in the train station is not Sister Boniface.
No. It is not.
This is definitive.
It is definitive.
Lorna Watson wasn't on the set. She was not there.
Nope.
It is not her.
I was wrong. Completely and utterly wrong.
And me and my camp were right.
Yes, you were.
Yes. Listeners, the man before me sucks the fun out of being right. I can tell you. He does this whole... Oh, you were right. I was wrong. Okay. You can't you can't gloat. It's no fun. You can't be like, neener, because he's like, oh, okay, I was wrong. You ruin it.
If this wasn't as definitive as it is, I would still be trying to fight it. But this is pretty definitive.
Yeah.
How amazing is it that we got email from Jude Tyndall?
I know. That's incredible. And it's so nice of her to settle the argument.
I was mean to Sarah. I sent her a text that said, I have a definitive answer on the Sister Boniface Conspiracy. And that is all I said.
I didn't speed home that day to get back to find out.
The other part of this is we now have Jude Tyndall's email address. And I may have already asked her if she wants to be on the show.
And she's agreed.
She's agreed. So,
which is just so wonderful.
Sometime in the future, we're going to have Jude Tyndall on, much like the episode where we had Lisa on.
Yeah.
So it'll be a...
So if you have questions about the storylines of Sister Boniface or the new Father Browns or Shakespeare and Hathaway, send them along. Yeah. We'll put them on our list of questions we're going to ask her. I'm sure she's going to be a blast. We had
such a blast with Lisa. I think we're going to have a blast with Jude also.
Yes, absolutely.
She seems to be such a great lady and is doing super interesting stuff that we're super interested in.
Yep. She's right up the Mystery Maniacs bailiwick.
Yep.
It's not scheduled yet, so we don't know exactly when that episode will come out, but we'll be sure to keep you in the loop.
Yes.
It's exciting.
Absolutely.
That's your win. I win on the Sister Boniface front, and you win on the landing that interview front.
Yep.
Good job.
That's fantastic.
Are you ready for Wackadoodle Father Brown?
Okay. So this is, first of all, I realized that this is over almost 50 years ago.
Yes.
But we are going to spoil this episode. Of short stories written over 110 years ago.
We're going to spoil them. We're going to say who did it. If that bothers you, I guess stop listening.
We had one listener who sent us a message that said, I'm halfway through the first one that you're watching, and this is Wackadoodle. We told you.
And we just get some more wacky, too. So I get to go first, and I'm covering The Arrow of Heaven.
Yeah.
Which is episode 12 of Old Father Brown. We don't even have to say season number because there was only ever one.
Yes, there's 13 episodes. And neither of these episodes, another thing about these episodes, I think one, your episode is the most wackadoodle. Mm-hmm. My episode may be the most influential, but neither of these episodes are covered in the new Father Brown.
No. I don't know how they could be.
I think Jude kind of looked at those and said, no.
Not those. No, let's not do those. So I'm going to tell you about my episode, and then you'll tell me about yours.
We may be able to ask her why there's no robots in the circus episode.
Why she chose clowns instead of robots?
Why did you go with clowns instead of robots?
Yeah, that was an interesting decision. Why not clown robots? Or robot clowns?
Wow. We are maniacs.
Before I dive into this episode, I have to tell you some interesting things about Kenneth More, who played Father Brown in the original series.
Okay, Kenneth More, who at this point in time is one of the highest paid actors in England.
He's big time.
He is super big time.
And then he decides to do Father Brown, right? But I think I know why. I think I can kind of explain that.
Okay.
In my episode, there is a character named Petra Merton. Yes. She's the only other woman in the episode. Literally the only other woman she's the only woman in it. Okay.
I'm going to say CK maybe should have talked to some more women.
Yeah.
It is 1910. He's writing this stuff. I understand.
But still, half of the population was still women when he was alive. But Petra Merton is played by Angela Douglas. Now, she's a young character in the episode. She's the niece of the murder victim. And so she's like a jet setter, go-getter. She flies a plane and stuff, right?
Yep.
So she's
totally like a flapper in the episode.
Sort of, yeah. But she's in her early 20s. She's a niece, right? She's played by Angela Douglas, who is Kenneth Moore's wife.
Oh.
Yes. So Father Brown and the niece, Petra Merton, are married in real life.
That's a separation of age that my episode will beat.
27 years.
Well, my episode's going to beat that.
But it's more interesting than that. So when they met, he was married. He was 47 and she was 20.
Okay.
And he separated from his wife, but he could not divorce her.
Oh, okay.
But they lived together for years before the divorce laws changed in England and allowed him to get a divorce.
Okay.
And during that time, they were ostracized completely.
Oh, okay.
Neither of them got many jobs
know that.
During that time.
Okay.
Once they were married, everybody was like, oh, okay. Now it's all right again.
Weird.
So, they were shunned. But anyway, 5 years after this episode was filmed, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, with a rare form of Parkinson's. And he died 2 years later.
Yeah, he doesn't look sick in these episodes. Not like Jeremy Brett. season 3.
But he's slowing down.
He's slowing down.
Compared to the roles he played before.
Before, he was in so many things.
And she took a break from acting and took care of him the whole time he was sick until he died. Like, she was right there the whole time.
Wow.
It's so romantic that they were able to do this episode together.
Yeah.
And he's a priest.
Yeah.
like
he can't kiss her.
Like, they can't even have, like, a romance. No. It's not even
but
possible.
They do have a moment, like, in the airport. It's a weird episode.
Yeah.
Where they kind of, she talks to, like,
he's avuncular to her.
Yeah.
He's a priest.
There. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was interesting.
Yes.
Okay. So here's the short summary of my episode. Okay. A really weird millionaire.
Yes.
Named Brander Merton wants to buy a chalice called the Coptic Cup that is cursed. He buys it at auction for £100,000.
Oh my gosh.
Which is a humongous amount of money.
Yes.
Okay. But it's cursed. The prior 2 owners were murdered, unsolved, when they owned it, right?
Yes.
It just so happens that Brander lives in what is quite possibly the strangest house ever built. It's in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
And
now this isn't a real house.
No. The only part of it that is above ground is a tower surrounded by a moat.
Yep.
That has 1 window, and the rest of the house is underground.
We see a model of it.
Yeah.
But that's it.
The exterior of the house is made of metal covered in concrete that can be electrified at a moment's notice.
Cannot make this stuff up.
And razor wire.
Yep.
And big signs that say keep out and has red skulls on them.
Yep.
And is patrolled by a small force of security guards.
Who are basically gangsters.
And frisk everybody.
Yep.
All the time.
Including Father Brown.
Right? Meanwhile, his brother, we can just call him Wild Bill, because he looks like Wild Bill Hickok crossed with Colonel Sanders, but his name is Hector. His brother and his daughter, Petra, are there.
And Hector has, without a doubt, the worst American accent.
Oh, yes. I'm American. I fought them. They're red Indians. It's real racist.
Yeah.
Okay. We acknowledge it.
We
It's
acknowledge
super racist.
the racism.
Anyway. But Colonel Hector's actually kind of a good guy. Like, he gave their African mining employees a 4% raise, and Brander's like, oh, how can you give them so much money?
Yeah, I remember that part.
Okay, Colonel Sanders and his daughter Petra are there to visit Brander, who is the millionaire with the cup. Also, there is a personal assistant, John Wilton.
Yes.
Who is Brander's secretary.
Yep.
And a strange journalist come art critic named Norman Drage.
Forgot about Norman.
Who's the only actual American in the episode.
Yes.
And side note, he's played by David Healy, who, among all of his credits, was the voice of the right knocker in Labyrinth.
Oh.
Do you remember the knockers?
Yes.
One has the ring through his ears and one has it through his mouth.
Yeah.
He plays the one with it through his ears.
Oh.
The one who looks like Olive.
Yeah.
He plays the voice of that one.
Okay.
Of course, Brander has the cup. The prior owners have been murdered. Brander's going to get murdered. He does get murdered, but he doesn't get murdered until after Father Brown is sent for. He flies in a plane with Petra. They go back. He's there.
Why is Father Brown sent for?
He's sent for to identify the cup because they don't know where it comes from, but they know that it has some kind of religious attachment, but they don't know what.
That's a valid-ish reason.
And Petra thinks he's probably going to get murdered, and maybe Father Brown can help because maybe he can solve the murders of the other 2 and prevent him from being murdered.
Yes.
Okay. Father Brown gets there, doesn't even get to meet Brander. The first time he walks into Brander's office, which is the only room above ground in the compound with a window, he finds him dead with a big arrow in his neck.
A giant metal arrow, isn't it?
No, it's a wooden Indian arrow.
It's a one Indian arrow.
Because it's Hector's. It's one of his souvenirs from the war with the Native Americans.
That's right.
Including the bow. It's through his neck, and on it is a little typed note that says Daniel Doom, murderer. Daniel Doom is the name that the killer of the other 2 has given himself.
Why don't they just go to the Doom residence and arrest Daniel Doom?
I don't know why they don't just call him and say, hi, is this Daniel? Hey, Dan.
Damn, Daniel.
Are you a killer, Daniel?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I sent the note. Oh, damn.
Damn, Daniel.
Damn.
That's on it. Father Brown realizes that it's actually the personal assistant who killed him because he is the son of the prior owner who was murdered because he has figured out that the current owner, Brander, the victim, was the killer. So the victim killed the prior two owners so he could get it, and now he's been killed by the son of the prior owner. Okay?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Hector, who claims to have survived the Battle of Little Bighorn, only one horse survived the Battle of Little Bighorn on Custer's side. One horse, no men.
No.
Except two who pretended to survive, but they were disproven later. Anyway, meanwhile, Hector's just being Colonel Sanders, and it's just really weird. There's also a bodyguard named Harris who thinks that he's like from 1920s Chicago in a pinstripe suit.
Yes.
And his whole job is to walk into rooms ahead of Brander and like look at everybody.
Yep.
Like he's clearing the room for him in his own house. It's so weird.
It's very strange.
So that's the short version.
Is there any talk in this episode about America?
Only in as much as Hector has been there.
Okay.
And they're all supposed to be Americans.
Okay.
But only Hector really makes a big deal out of it.
Okay. You'll see why when I get to my episode, why I asked that.
Okay. So here's the weird thing about this episode. I shouldn't say that.
That's the weird thing?
Here's the weird thing about how the murder is solved. So Father Brown realizes that the typed Daniel Doom murderer note on the arrow was typed on Drake, who is the art critic journalist, was typed on his typewriter.
Okay. Is the typewriter in the episode?
Yes.
What kind of typewriter is it?
I don't know, but you should look at it. And it's at, I made a note. It's at 4030.
Okay.
It is the kind of typewriter that doesn't have a shift. It has a full set of capital letters and a full set of lowercase letters. So the keyboard is humongous.
It is.
Anyway.
And that would be more time appropriate.
So he realizes the note on the arrow wasn't typed consecutively. It's actually made out of two strips of paper.
Okay.
The Daniel Doom is one strip and murderer is another strip. And murderer isn't capitalized.
Okay.
So Father Brown figures out, okay, these two pieces were cut from something else.
Yep.
And what they were cut from is a blackmail letter that Norman Drage had sent to Brander to say, I know you're the killer. I know you killed those other two guys. So you're going to let me come to your house and get a whole bunch of your money.
Oh, okay.
So Norman Drage actually solved the case.
Yeah.
He's the one who discovered that Brander was Daniel Doom, not Father Brown.
So what does Father Brown do in the episode?
Figures out that the words came from a blackmail letter. And since Wilton is the assistant, he opens the mail.
Okay.
So he would have had the letter to cut the words out of.
By the way,
so he must have been the one to put him on the arrow.
These, like the new Father Browns, are 50 minutes. Things hustle in these episodes.
Things hustle. So not only does Father Brown not solve it, but it couldn't have happened because they make this huge deal out of how Brander is really paranoid, right? So all the security guards have been like triple background checked. They've all been vetted like 5 different ways to make sure that they'll be absolutely loyal.
Yeah.
But he doesn't realize that his assistant is the son of a man that he killed.
Yeah, like he would do.
He changed his name from John Wilton Hoarder to John Wilton.
Where'd the hoarder go?
And he wouldn't have done enough background check to know that.
Yeah, like...
That's if he didn't recognize him.
There are some plot holes.
He would have had to
these
case,
episodes.
he would have had to case the house of the hoarders. That's their name.
Yeah.
To steal it, to kill the guy and steal it. And he would have known that he had a son and what his son looked like. But then his son magically becomes his assistant without him knowing that that's who he is.
Yeah.
But the big deal is that Hector shows how them engines used to throw knives and hit people like 1.5 miles away. Phew! And then Father Brown realizes, oh, if you can use a knife like an arrow, you can use an arrow like a knife. So he wasn't shot with an arrow through the neck. He was stabbed with it through the neck.
Yes.
Aha! Then John Wilton, who killed him, kills himself. The end. Literally, the end.
Yeah. By the way, my story starts with there was a rich multimillionaire, American multimillionaire.
Oh, yeah?
And ends with, and he kills himself. The end.
Well, in this case, the multimillionaire doesn't kill himself. His killer does.
His killer does.
Right.
Also, exact same in my episode.
But there's so many weird things.
Yes.
Like, so Brander is so paranoid that not only does he live in this compound, but his office only locks from the outside. So when he goes in, the
He's
door
locked
shuts
in.
behind him and he's locked in until he presses a buzzer and his bodyguard unlocks the door and lets him out.
Why doesn't the secretary just leave him in there and forget about him?
Yeah, really.
I don't know where he is.
Of course, there's a will, and that's a red herring.
Yeah.
You know, did somebody in the family kill him? It's really a locked room mystery.
Yeah.
So basically, the bottom line is that Wilton slipped in and under the guise of making sure Brander was ready to see Father Brown and killed him, and then said, "Oh, you can come on in."
Yeah.
So he couldn't have died that fast. He would have still been going.
The decided lack of blood. I remind you, my story has 2 decapitations. Is a problem in both of these episodes.
Yeah, there's very little blood, and that's fine. Brown has never been in an airplane before, or as the Brits would say, aeroplane.
Aeroplane.
I don't know why they inserted an O in the middle. He's never been in a plane, so we get to see him on a plane. We get to hear him talk about how whales are monogamous for some reason.
He crosses the channel in the story for my episode in a boat, and he doesn't want to cross the channel. It's the first time he's ever been to France.
Well, he doesn't want to fly.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. But he does. It's kind of silly. But I mean, really, the star of the show is Hector.
Yeah.
Because he's just so weird. How he and this other guy, Brander, can be brothers and be so different.
So when was this written? Did you write that down? It would be early 1900s.
Yes.
1910s.
Yes.
So Lil Bighorn is 1876. Could have been a young man there, but
There's also
more
this,
likely he's boasting.
there's also this weird scene where Father Brown accidentally rips a doorknob off with his umbrella. I know. I'm not making it up. I'm telling you. But when they talk about the house being electrified once the switch is thrown,
Yes.
it made me think of Electric Vendetta and
Absolutely.
Midsummer Murders.
Absolutely.
Where he sets up a house that is electrified.
By the way, that was mentioned on Reddit this week.
Oh, yeah?
People are like, what happened to that second guy? I'm like,
Nobody knows.
No one knows.
Everybody forgot all about him.
Yep.
Yeah, it's super weird. It's super weird. So the last thing I'll
are there
tell
any
you.
famous people in it other than...
Well, yes, I've got 2 movies for you.
Oh, okay.
But the last thing I'll tell you that's really strange about this episode is at the end, Brown gets everybody together, of course, to tell him that he solved the mystery, right? Except for the journalist who actually solved the mystery. He leaves him in his room, right? So he's got everybody around a table and he's confronting them. And Wilton, who is the killer in this episode, goes into the office and kind of closes the door. And when because he says, Father Brown, can I talk to you? And they go off and they talk, but you don't know what they've had to say. And then Brown comes back and he leaves Wilton in the office that locks, right? And he comes out to talk to everybody else. And he says, Wilton knows who Daniel Doom is. He's solved the mystery of who killed the prior 2 owners. And everybody in the room assumes also killed this guy, right?
Yeah.
Daniel Doom. And they're like, awesome. And he's like, and he's killed him. And they're like, that's great. Wilton killed the killer.
Yeah.
That's super. He can't go to jail. He did the right thing.
Yeah.
And Father Brown kind of looks at him like, okay. And he goes, and Daniel Doom was Brander, the man who dies in this episode.
Yeah.
And then they're like, string him up. He's a killer. He's awful, right? And Brown gets mad at them and says, no, when you thought he had,
He points out their hypocrisy.
when you thought he had killed some scoundrel, you were all for letting him off the hook. But now that he's killed Brander, who was the scoundrel, you want to string him up? I don't think so.
No.
So he's arguing that Wilton should be free.
Yeah,
That's what he's arguing for.
Yeah.
He's saying, no, we can't hold this against him. He killed the killer.
Yeah.
And then you hear a gunshot and Wilton's killed himself.
Yeah. How did they get into the room to check?
Well, the bodyguard's there. He's the one with the key who can actually
has
unlock
key.
the door.
Okay,
Yeah. He's the only one who can let
I
Brander in
thought
and
the
out of his office.
buzzer was the only way to open the door.
Oh, no, the buzzer is, I want to let out, please.
Okay.
Can you imagine having to ask your assistant to let you out of your office every time you needed to go pee?
No.
Like, that would get annoying real fast. It's just the house. The concept of the house is just so weird.
So very weird.
But two of the actors who are in this episode
Yep.
are also in incredibly horrible movies.
Okay.
Do you want to play horrible movies
I do.
before we do your episode?
Let's play incredibly horrible movies. Just to tell you, I'm in my October phase of watching bad horror movies. Every day I've watched Burn Witch Burn this week.
Oh, I don't care. You haven't seen these.
I watched The Vampire Lovers today.
I'm going to get 2 points here. You ready? Okay, the first one is from 1974.
Okay.
And these are going to be older because the actors are older. That's just how it is.
Yep.
Mike Pratt, who plays Hector,
Yes.
Colonel Sanders, is in this movie.
Okay.
The tagline is, they came across 1 billion miles of space, driven by the greatest force in the universe, survival.
Is this Day of the Triffids?
No.
Okay.
An organization called Shadow fights off aliens who are infiltrating Earth by disguising themselves as humans. They kill humans and animals and use them for body parts.
So this is a Body Snatchers ripoff movie. It's American.
A highly secretive military organization is set up in hope of defending the Earth from this alien threat.
Mersh.
They're called Shadow.
Shadow.
Supreme Headquarters Alien Defense Organization.
No, I don't know this movie at all.
It's called Invasion UFO.
Invasion UFO.
Yes, and it's the first of a series of movies.
Invasion UFO?
Yes, you will know this movie when you see the poster because the main alien female has lavender hair that in the front is cut like a Romulan's. Like her bangs come down to a point between her eyebrows. As soon as you see it, you'll be like, oh, I've seen her before.
No, she's not on the poster. I've not seen her. Oh, yes. Okay.
Yes. See?
Yeah. I've seen her in a book before, but I never saw this movie.
Okay. So that's 1 point for me.
Yeah, it's purple.
Hoo-ha.
She has kind of cool hair, except for the widow's peak part.
Yeah, except for the bangs.
It's a nice color.
That's what I said. It's lavender.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 1 point. Are you ready?
Yes.
The second one is from 1967.
Ooh, okay.
And George Rubick, who plays John Wilton, the murderer in this episode, is in this movie. Tagline. It's taken man thousands of years to do what the brain can do in seconds. Destroy the world. What are you going to do about that, Michael Caine?
Oh, okay.
That's on the poster.
Yep.
They kind of break the third rule there. A former British spy stumbles onto a plot to overthrow communism with the help of a supercomputer. But who is working for whom?
I've seen this movie.
And Michael Caine is in it.
There's a point where there's like a circular thing that has lights in it. There's the brain.
Oh, there's a lot of flashy doot lights.
Yep.
Yes. The voice of the computer is played by Donald Sutherland.
Oh.
But what is the name of this movie?
Wow.
I can see smoke coming out of your headphones.
No, I don't know. I don't think I've seen it. I definitely haven't seen it.
Carl Malden is in it,
Carl
too.
Malden is in it. I know this movie, but I've never seen it.
It is called $1 Billion Brain.
$1 Billion Brain, yes.
2 points for me.
2 points for Sarah.
It actually looks like kind of a good movie, sort of.
Let's get Michael Caine and Donald Sutherland in it.
I love Michael Caine.
Yeah.
But the plot of this thing is kind of dubious.
$1 Billion Brain is pretty amazing for 1967.
Oh, yeah. Way ahead of its time.
That's a lot of brain.
But people are pretty critical of it. And not just because that's not how computers work. Like, it's kind of hokey, apparently. And that is my part of the show. It's your turn now.
Yes, my turn is to tell you about The Secret Garden.
So this is about a little girl who finds a garden, right? And a little boy who's sick and she cheers him up.
I don't know, because both the novel and the story were serialized at the same time in the same year.
What?
Yeah, 1910. Both the novel and
the Secret
story.
Garden novel about the little girl.
And this story were serialized in the same time.
Wow, can you imagine if you picked up the wrong next chapter? Like, wait a minute, did the little girl get decapitated? That's different. Has she become a priest? What is going on?
I can't find any reference to the two of them, but apparently secrets and gardens were in the air at that point in time. I looked it up. I'm like, because I was like, well, obviously this is first because this was written. And oh, no, same time.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us about it.
This is a story of a rich American millionaire.
You don't say.
Whose name is Julius K. Brain.
Brain?
Brain.
Is he the $1 billion brain? Julius Brain.
Yes.
Okay.
And he
gets decapitated?
Yes.
Okay. He's going to lose his $1 billion brain.
And he and Father Brown are on their way to France to meet a friend of his who is Aristide Valentin.
Okay.
Or Valentine.
Okay.
When you think of Valentine, what do you think of?
I think of hearts and candy.
Hearts. So now we have a heart.
Uh-huh. And a brain.
And a brain.
Oh, the symbolism is deep in this one.
Now, Aristide is very pompous.
Mm-hmm.
He is a judge he's the chief of police of Paris.
Okay.
Sorry. And he is an atheist, an avowed atheist.
Okay.
And the Catholics want his head.
Oh.
Right? The Catholics are upset with him.
Okay.
Because he said all these things about Catholicism. This episode is really, one way to look at this episode is Anglicanism, Catholicism, and atheism at war with each other.
Okay.
Okay. So Valentine.
So is Brain an Anglican?
Brain is figuring out where he's going to give all his money to. And he's looking for charities.
Okay.
Now, Father Brown knows at this point in time, before the story starts, that Brain is going to give most of his money to the church.
Okay.
He's going to give a little bit now, and then when he dies, the church gets all of it.
Okay.
Catholicism gets all of it.
Okay.
Okay. They're going to a dinner party. There are other people at this dinner party.
Do they actually make it look like Paris, or do they stand in front of a backdrop that has the Eiffel Tower painted on it or something?
It's not even that. They
Okay.
say, we've arrived in Paris. Here's a newspaper that's in French.
Okay.
Valentine gets to his house after looking after a guillotining of a man.
Okay.
Now.
That's the first beheading.
Okay, trivia time, Sarah. When do you think the last person was guillotined in France? It's really the last time a person has been guillotined in the Western world.
Wow. I'm going to say after World War I, but before World War II.
I'm going to shock you. It is in our lifetime.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So after 1975?
Yes.
They were guillotining people in France in the 70s?
In 1977, the last gentleman was guillotined in France.
Jeez.
In our lifetimes,
Get with it, France.
people were guillotined.
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 You speak French. You
I
should
do.
say guillotine.
Guillotine.
All the people who speak French are like, stop it with the L's, Mark. Guillotine.
Guillotine.
That's how Hector would say it. Hey, y'all, let me guillotine this red Indian.
So Valentine shows up at his house, which is a fortress.
Okay.
It has a walled garden, one entrance, and armed guards and bars on the window.
How familiar is that?
Very familiar.
Oh, at least it has windows.
Because he's worried about being attacked, right? He invites a number of people for dinner, okay? And the dinner companions include Father Brown and Brain, but also Lord Galloway and Lady Galloway and Lady Margaret Galloway, who's their daughter.
Okay.
So they're Anglicans,
Okay.
British aristocracy, right? And then...
And they go all the way to France for a dinner party?
Yep.
Okay.
The Duchess of Mont Saint Michel is there also. She is a dark-haired, vampy, older lady cougar.
Okay. Of Mount Michel.
Yep.
Michelle Mountain.
Yep.
Okay.
And she is followed by Commander Neil O'Brien.
Is he Scottish?
He's Irish.
Irish?
And he's Catholic.
Ah.
And he is Charles Dance.
Oh, yes. You might remember
Oh, my
Charles
gosh.
Dance as the patriarch of the
Lannisters.
The Lannisters in Game of Thrones,
Yes.
who was shot with a crossbow while sitting on a toilet. That's
Yes.
Dance.
This is Charles Dance's first appearance.
How old is he?
He's 27.
Oh.
Okay. I referenced in your part something about an age difference in marriage. It's not Charles Dance. Charles Dance's father.
Okay.
When Charles
his
Dan-
character's father?
No.
Oh,
When
his
Char-
actual father.
His actual father. Him and Kenneth Moore may have said something to talk about.
Okay.
Because Charles Dance's father was 72 when he was born.
Wow.
Charles Dance's father fought as a officer in the Boer War.
Wow. How old was his mom?
22.
Whoa, 50 years?
Yep.
Wow. Okay, Grandpa, let's get married.
That's his second marriage.
Wow.
Charles Dance has really old half siblings.
Yeah, I bet he does.
Well, they're all dead now.
Well,
No,
yeah.
Charles Dance isn't dead, but everybody else is dead.
He's the last surviving dancer.
How many barbets did he win going? The closest relative who fought in the Boer War.
Yeah. Or the biggest age difference between your parents.
Yeah.
50 years. Shazam.
Wow. Shazam. Charles Dance with a full head of hair, which is rare for us to see at this point, but red hair because he's Irish.
Yes.
He's Irish, so he has red hair.
Red hair.
He's Irish.
They all have red hair.
And he's Catholic.
Does he say, oh?
Thankfully, he doesn't attempt an Irish accent at all.
That's good.
So they're all in the house with the servants. They're all in the house with the servants, and several sources say this is the very first dinner party murder.
Oh, because this is before Agatha Christie.
This is way before Agatha Christie. This is the first time where people are all brought to the house for a dinner party, and there's a murder at the dinner party.
Wow.
Some people say that this is the beginning of
template.
Cluedo
Yeah.
and Clue and all of that.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's why I say that this may have longer lasting reach.
Absolutely.
That this is like the first instance.
It's the first country house murder.
Yeah. So what happens is they find a dead body in the backyard with his head cut off. Mm-hmm. And Father Brown obsesses over some trees and the doctor, there's a doctor also.
Oh, there's always a doctor.
Yes, the doctor's name
Is he an alcoholic? Because they're usually alcoholics.
No, but he is science.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So that's his part in here.
Yes.
And he asks 5 essential questions about the murder, and only Father Brown can answer them. The whole thing is a veiled metaphor for how religion can answer questions that science can't.
Gotcha.
Right? So they find the dead body. They bring it inside. They don't know who it is.
Oh, because the head's gone?
No. When they move the body, they find that the head is not connected.
Oh.
Charles Dance has a sword, but he lost the sword. There's a sword on the wall, but it's gone, but then it gets replaced. Anyway, we figure out that the killer is Valentine, and he has killed Brain. And the way he did it is this.
Wait a minute. The body was Brain, but they didn't recognize him?
No, because this is what happened. Valentine was showing Brain how a sword works in the backyard, which is why the trees were cut. And
How a sword works. And you flip this switch, and then you got to move it like
And
that.
when Brain was lulled into a sense of okayness with Valentine
safety,
with the sword, Valentine cuts his head off with the sword.
Okay.
Okay. Now, none of this is forensically possible.
No.
Because he takes Brain's head and throws it over the wall.
We don't get to see that happen, right?
Into the Seine. No, we don't get
Oh,
to
he throws it into a river.
Yes,
Okay.
because the Seine goes right
Okay.
by his house.
Okay.
And then he pulls out from some unknown location the head of the dead body of the guillotine man that he would just witnessed.
That he's just been carrying in his pocket.
Just got it in his pocket or something.
Okay.
He plops that down in front of Brain's body. So it's Brain's body, but not Brain's brain.
Okay. Oh, you're so clever.
So that's why they don't understand. And then Brain is missing. So they all assume Brain is the killer.
But wait a minute. So he takes the time to match the neck up
Yes.
enough that they don't notice he's been beheaded until they move him?
Yes.
Okay.
And nobody gets any blood on them.
Okay.
There's no blood like everywhere.
Yeah. No.
So then there's a murder outside the house, and everyone assumes it's Brain who is killed again, right? Because it's another decapitation.
Okay.
And the reason why they know it's another decapitation is because they find a head in the river.
So now 3 people have been decapitated.
No.
Oh.
They don't find a body. They find Brain's head.
Oh, okay.
Brain's brain.
Okay. So they think now Brain's been
But
killed
they don't
too.
know it's Brain. So they think that Brain did it.
How do they not know it's him if it's his head?
They haven't seen it.
Oh, okay.
But as soon as they
So they
see
think Brain's off decapitating people.
Yes.
Okay. And this is his second victim.
Brain is taking Brain.
Okay.
But Father Brown figures out that the reason why, because it's like, why would you just not stab the guy instead of cutting his head off? Well, the reason is, he needed to cut the head off
So he could
use the other head
Right.
and over the wall.
You have to realize every time Mark says over the wall, he throws his arm up over his head like he's flinging something behind
They
him
say the
every time.
walls are 10 feet high. That is a long ass throw for Brain's head
Up over the wall and into a river?
into the river.
Yeah, that's a long throw. Does he
Yeah.
have long hair? Like, is
No.
there a handle?
No.
Because if he was bald, it'd be real hard to throw
Yes,
it.
it would
If he's
be.
got some hair, you could get a.
You'd
know,
have
you
to
could
put your
swing it.
fingers in his nose like
Yeah.
a bowling ball.
But even then, it'd be better if you could swing him, get some speed
Yep.
up, and then, let him go.
No.
Okay.
Oh,
So this convict's head matches Brain's body.
like perfectly. Supposedly.
Well, guillotine cuts and sword cuts are identical. They look just alike.
Yes.
No problem.
Yeah. It's the same thing. Like, if there is a doctor, wait a minute, there is a doctor who would have immediately said, this body and this head don't go together.
Yeah, one's tan, one's pale,
Yeah, like instantaneous.
one's hairy, one's not.
There is this whole subplot about the daughter and Charles Dance running off together and the old lady, the cougar lady wanting to be with him too. Nothing to do with anything.
Doesn't matter.
Just complete uselessness.
Does he like Cougar Lady?
No.
Does he like
and she's
Michelle
only,
Mountain?
She's only
No.
in the show. She's not in the story.
Oh, so she's just eye candy.
She's just added eye candy.
Oh, okay. But Catholic Irish Charles Dance and Anglican Richie Daughter can't possibly be together. That's like Romeo and Juliet.
Of course, her dad doesn't like him.
Yeah, Anglicans and Catholics cannot get married.
But she and him run off because they don't care.
They don't care.
Yes.
So, did nobody notice Valentine slipping away with a convicted man's head?
Covered in blood.
Must have had a convenient basket waiting for it. And
Yes.
just grabbed it and took off.
Father
I have a dinner
Brown's-
party to go to.
Father Brown says he probably said he needed the head for some medical reason.
Why?
Okay, if the chief of police of your town goes, I need a head for a medical reason,
Be suspicious.
be suspicious.
It's not that he's an atheist that you should have problems with. It's that he's experimenting with heads. You
Well,
should have
and
a
the
problem
reason
with.
why he kills him, it's the worst motive ever, because the reason why he kills him is because he's giving his money to the church.
What, Valentine thinks he should get the money?
I don't know, but by killing him, the church gets all the money
speeds it
right
up.
away.
Yeah.
That is the wrong
He just
thing
makes
to
sure
do.
it happens. He should keep him alive and change his mind.
That's exactly what he should do.
But no, I will behead you.
But no, the garden of flinging heads.
So the moral of the story is if a corrupt policeman invites you to his backyard to show you how a sword works, don't go.
So we have Colonel Custard Sanders and the secret
Custard Sanders.
Colonel Custard Sanders. And
He's
the
Wild Bill Sanders.
Wild Bill Sanders and the garden of flinging heads.
Hector, Wild Bill Sanders, he sleeps with the 6-shooter in his hand.
Wow.
He's old.
So the guy who
If you startle him, you
Yeah.
might get shot.
the guy who plays Valentine is not a French guy. I know you'd be.
Does he pretend to be French?
He kind of does.
Does he go,
No, he doesn't go home, but he does.
Does he say, baguette,
He,
croissant?
he does say some French words. He does. But I was
Mon Dieu.
that guy is like, he kind of looks like the devil. Like he's got a goatee and it's kind of curly.
Yeah.
And he's got the mustache and everything. So I was like, I wonder what else his name he's in. First of all, his name is Ferdy Main. That is a fantastic name.
Ferdy?
Ferdy.
So he's Ferdinand.
Yes. But he goes
Ferdy.
by Ferdy Main.
Okay.
Wow. This dude has been in a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. He was in Ben-Hur.
Oh.
He was in Barry Lyndon. And,
Lyndon?
Yes, Barry Lyndon. And also, one of my favorites, The Fearless Vampire Killers. Which is...
That's the way you got to be if you're going to hunt vampires.
It's like
It's
Carry
fearless.
On Vampires.
Yeah.
It's...
Angela Douglas was in like 6 Carry On movies.
Yeah, absolutely. He's super cool.
But you're right. If this is the first dinner
yes.
party murder,
Yeah.
that has huge ramifications.
Yes.
I mean, it's not to say that nobody else would have ever come up with that idea, but if it's the kind of template that
I saw a
inspired other
number
people,
of sources
that's amazing.
that said that.
That's
Absolutely.
That's something that I think Chesterton should get credit for.
I
He
think so.
invented the country house murder.
There are tons of problems with this. Like, how does Valentine know that Father Brown knows that he's the killer? Because
The head
he just
flinging,
tells the
the
doctor the
body
head
matching,
flinging, the lack
yeah.
of blood,
Yeah, all
the-
of that.
all sorts of problems. But it's a funny, weird story that tries to do so many things.
This is one of those where you really want the scene recreating the crime. You really want the flashback because you really want to see him fling that head
And
sneak away with the other one.
The reason why I asked you this is I asked you about how the U.S. is portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
And Valentine keeps harping on this. He says it a number of times that the U.S. is such a progressive country. And Brain says it's such a progressive country.
Interesting.
That they have put religion behind them and moved into the 20th century.
Oh, interesting.
And they are seen as incredibly forward thinking rather than the old world.
In
Which
my
is interesting.
episode, Americans are money-grubbing people who make money not because they're innovative and hardworking, but because they're greedy and prey upon people's fears.
Oh, well, they are seen as completely progressive. It's very interesting
That is interesting.
that the U.S. is seen as such a the kind of way that we look at Denmark and Finland and those Scandinavian countries, Canada, as being progressive now. That's what the U.S. was. And I'm going to say the U.S. is probably not perceived that way in France right now.
No. Wow. So that's the secret garden.
Yes. Wow.
That's real different from that little
Charles
girl.
Dance's father was in the Boer War. That's insane.
That is insane.
That's just insane.
So that's Secret Garden.
Yeah.
Mine was Arrow of Heaven.
Yes.
Let us know if you think there's a crazier episode from this early version of the Father Brown stories on TV in the 70s. Next week.
We are covering. So next week starts the Halloween episodes. We're starting with the Halloween party with Poirot. Mm-hmm. And
We've got apple bobbing and Snapdragon, the most dangerous kids game next to lawn darts.
yes, a child dies.
Yes. And then we'll be covering your favorite Halloween episode, which is The Pale Horse.
Yes.
And then we'll do listener's choice.
Yep.
So look out for that survey.
So look out for the survey. Follow us, subscribe on the YouTube.
Yeah, they know all that stuff.
Follow us on Instagram, all that good stuff. Please send us comments and mail. We love getting it all. Watch for that reel from Kay so you can see the stuff that she sent us. If you like Great Gatsby and if you like comic books or graphic novels, pick up her graphic novel.
Just go on Amazon and look at the
gorgeous.
pictures. It's really beautiful.
She recommends that you go to your local independent bookseller if you can.
Yeah. Buy it there.
Yep.
But if you can't buy it, check it out. It's really pretty.
It's absolutely gorgeous. All of her art is fantastic. She
Yes.
sent us a couple of things. And I want to, of course, thank Jude Tyndall for finally giving us a definitive. It's so amazing that we have a definitive answer.
Yes.
It is amazing.
We'll never know if Barnaby was really in the background of that other episode.
No.
But we got a definitive
I still
answer.
have hope that we might
about
find
Boniface.
that out. But
I can't believe you still hope about that.
now we got Sister Boniface figured out. Facts.
Yes. All right. Until next time. Bye, Maniacs.
Bye, Maniacs.
At Schaefer's, which was the first and only full menu fondue restaurant in Indianapolis, when they were carrying oil away from a table, they would yell, "Hot oil, hot, hot, hot oil."